Okay, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Again, Robin, thank you for the invitation, I think. Waste not, want not. I was given absolutely no clue as to what I was supposed to talk about. And having read the background paper and had a discussion with Neil Grundon, one of our shareholders, the subtitle to this presentation is How Does a Modern Waste Management Business Adapt to the Green Agenda, the Sustainability Agenda? And I also noted that in the background paper, was that your paper, Robin? I forget now. You mentioned the vexed question of waste management, and also, and I quote here, you asked the question: is there common ground between those that cherish and nurture the planet and those that exploit and plunder it for profit? Now, I suspect that most people would put a waste management company firmly in that second category. And I'm hoping over the course of the next 20-25 minutes to perhaps demonstrate that we have at least one foot in the former camp, and we are trying to cherish and nurture the planet. A brief introduction to Grundon for those that don't know anything about us. We are the largest privately managed waste management company in the UK. We have a turnover in the region of £80 million. We employ 700 people. We run approximately 300 vehicles, mainly large trucks. We have a very high-profile commercial industrial waste collection business, and an example of that is we serve Windsor Castle. You may have noticed our bins around the site. We are very proud to have the Royal Warrant, the Royal Crest, and to be able to promote that appropriately within the business. As well as that high profile, that very visible blue collection fleet in the bins, we have a less high profile but equally important hazardous clinical and radioactive waste business, which is an important aspect of the business that underpins the business and is quite a strong niche for us. So what are the key drivers for change? I mean, there are innumerable laws, UK guidance, EU directives, guiding, regulating the business. But these, for me, are basic, in simple terms, are the key ones. The EU EC Landfill Directive fundamentally changed the way we viewed the future of landfill. Landfill tax is self-explanatory. It's currently £64 a tonne. By the 1st of April 2014, it will be £80 a tonne. The waste hierarchy, hopefully most people in this room understand that. That again is driving the business forward. The waste hierarchy is underpinned by best available techniques, which is largely enforced by the Environment Agency. And we understand those as a business. I think we're comfortable with them. We're comfortable with what they mean. The next two, though, carbon management and renewable energy, a lot more nebulous, a lot harder to understand what the direction we should be going and what is good for the business, what is genuinely good for the climate and for the environment, and it's a much steeper learning curve for us. And I'm also wondering, actually, that photo shows three generations of the Grundon family. Stephen Grundon at the forefront with the horse and cart, his father in turn, Norman Grundon, and then Neil Grundon in the background with the large vehicle. I am wondering actually whether in time we will come full circle and we go back to the horse and cart. But I don't know if somebody may want to run a carbon footprint on that. And moving on from those 6 key points, what do they mean in reality? Landfill tax avoidance is obvious. Customers are driven by that ethic, primarily clearly for financial reasons. What that means in turn is that we're seeing less waste, and for some companies we're seeing waste that is better segregated, and that in turn means that those wastes have a value. And there's an interesting dynamic there in that whereas in the past we would have charged the customer to get rid of waste, now if it's properly segregated it has a value, and they want to participate in that value chain, and they want to know how much we're going to pay them. And it's changing the economics fundamentally and in quite challenging ways as well. And where you can't recycle the waste, obviously there is a value in it as energy as well, and we've exploited that, as I'll explain. So there are new opportunities, there are new business models to pursue. But there are new threats and new entrants. The paper mills, for example, want to get their hands on good quality paper and card for the paper mills. They've entered the business market. Very focused, but in a unique position to undercut the traditional waste management business and to impose their own standards as well. And there is a new dynamic, particularly around the link between waste and renewable and sustainable energy. Good examples of this is that currently there's a huge demand for refuse-derived fuel, RDF, in Europe. They've got a large number of energy from waste plants, particularly in Germany. They're running out of waste. They're looking to the UK to fuel their energy from waste facilities. And they're charging a gate fee, £50. They'll collect it from our facilities and take it to Europe for £50. Now you compare that to a landfill tax at £64, and there's a business opportunity there, which we are exploiting, albeit reluctantly, I think it's fair to say. Cemex in Rugby have a huge project to fuel their cement kilns with waste, and Tata Chemicals, again, another huge project transporting waste from London to a combined heat and power plant serving their chemicals. So all these things, huge projects, big market distortions, big threats to us. If we can't get our hands on that waste, we no longer have a business. So what does that mean? This is even in my tenure within Grundens. I joined in 1989. Proudly in my first few weeks shown around the 6 landfills that we had. And we had several quarries, all earmarked for future landfill exploitation. And we had no purpose-built recovery or recycling facilities, no energy recovery. The recycling that we did was a bit of oil-water separation, and we were pulling a lot of solvents at the time out of the Cowley motorworks, and they could go off for cleaning and reuse. And that was about a bit of scrap metal off the landfill, and that was the measure of it. And today, we have 2 landfills, and we have no plans. I have no plans for any more. I have debates with the shareholders on that. I think I'm winning the argument. One of the landfills is a relatively small one near Maidenhead. The other one is a significant hazardous waste landfill near Cheltenham. And that's plenty for me, thank you. We get enough bad press from just those 2 sites. We don't need any more. And as the landfills have declined, material recovery facilities, MRFs or MRFs, have gained. And we now have 6 planning permissions for 2 more. And we have also constructed the Lakeside Energy from Waste facility. Anybody who's, that's not worked quite, anybody who's driven past Heathrow Airport on the M25 may have seen this curved roof building with the tall stacks. That's our energy from waste facility, 440,000 tonnes a year, generating net 37 megawatts of electricity, and it would probably have done more if we'd put a bigger turbine in. We weren't to know that at the time. And but it is just energy from waste, it's not CHP. And could we get Heathrow Airport or BAA or any of the local heat users, could we get them interested? Could we not? It is just crazy, just crazy. So there we are, air-cooled condensers blasting all this heat to the atmosphere with all the issues surrounding that. And it's not for the want of trying, really wasn't. Our Colnbrook Clinical Waste Incinerator is linked to the energy from waste facilities, so we now export steam into energy from waste, and that contributes to the energy electricity generation. That's a nice step forward for us. And we have 2 landfill gas engines and a permission for 1 micro generation off a very old landfill, again near Heathrow. That's actually, it's more profitable burning the landfill gas than it is managing the landfills these days. So just to get some numbers, these aren't as impressive as Michael's in terms of the actual numbers, but we first started reporting in the year 2000. We were using the Green Alliance, a set of reporting tools. At the time we were doing 500, the numbers are self-explanatory. I should explain that actually this is all the waste we manage. So this includes all the waste that goes to landfill, all the waste that comes through the MRFs. This is the waste in its totality and how it's changed in that time. Clearly, the business has grown. We're handling double the quantity of waste, but the recovery rates have increased as well. Perhaps a more significant number to put that into context, that is the proportion of materials that we recover from our MRFs. Now, the important thing to point out here is that our MRFs have two modes of operation. One is to segregate pre-sorted recyclables. So, you know, you're putting your paper, glass, cardboard, etc. into a green bin. Local authorities will collect it. That waste will come to our MRFs, and the job of the MRFs then is to segregate it into the single streams. But we're also predominantly a commercial industrial waste business. So we are taking waste from commercial industrial sources, some of it recyclables, some of it's just mixed waste. We're putting that through the MRFs as well. We can operate in two modes, either pick the contras out or pick the good stuff out. So we've got that opportunity. So in a combination of all those different types of waste, we're getting 38% as good quality material coming out of our MRFs. As I said, a large number of vehicles using lots and lots of fuel. Again, another number. As you see, still the same quantity of waste, but actually the amount of fuel we've used in that time has gone up by approximately a third. So we've seen a fairly significant improvement in the fuel efficiency of the business. Clearly, the motivator on that is financial. We're spending a lot of money, not as much as Michael, but we're spending a lot of money, and a significant proportion of the operating cost of the collection business is fuel. And greenhouse gas emissions divided by tonnes of waste handled. Okay, that's a huge, on the face of it, is a hugely impressive and perhaps slightly unbelievable number. But I have to say that in the year 2000 was the last year we were operating our old clinical waste incinerator, which was gobbling up huge quantities of gas to keep the secondary chambers at temperature and stuff. And then also in the year 2000, we had a large area of our landfills open, waiting to be restored. And that was partly due to sort of some of the foot and mouth stuff that was going on. So it makes a great starting point, although it actually was a slight anomaly. But I don't think that should detract from the fact that we have year on year seen significant reductions in our carbon footprint. We are about to issue the 2010-2011 numbers, and I have to say progress has stalled because of the recession. We still have the same number of vehicles driving around, but they're collecting less waste. It is less efficient. But we've not seen any significant degradation from those numbers. And partly as a consequence of this, but partly also as a need to try and instill some sort of sensible debate, we've recently engaged with the University of Portsmouth on a knowledge transfer partnership, KTP. And we've engaged an associate to develop carbon footprinting software. We felt that actually, lots of people make lots of claims, and it's very difficult to understand actually, what are these robust numbers, what's the background to them. So our associate, Adil, is working on a carbon footprinting software that hopefully will provide a robust mechanism for us as an individual company to be able to portray our carbon footprinting. We're hoping it will set a template and a standard for the rest of the waste management industry, so we can start talking in real numbers and getting real comparisons. But what we also want to do, and this is the principal driver, is present our customers with a choice. To say that actually, if we do such and such and such with your waste and send it to landfill, there's a financial cost of X, there's a carbon footprint cost of X. If you want to send it to a MRF, if you want us to recycle the food waste, if you want us to do all these clever things, there's a financial cost of 2X probably, and there's a carbon footprint cost of hopefully X minus something. And give them a choice. There are a limited number of companies, particularly people like BAA, the pharmaceutical companies, those that are more engaged in corporate social agendas, that will actually start to factor those considerations into their purchase choice. Hopefully over time we'll find that the larger proportion of our customers for whom at the moment the financial cost is the be all and end all, hopefully if we can start giving them those numbers, start giving them some real numbers and engage in the debate, we can start modifying behaviours and giving people an awareness of what their choices mean. Hopefully we'll be going forward with that inside the next 12 months. And then, so what does it mean in practice really in terms of how the business is changing? And I've got 3 examples, the first of which is NHS contracts. And the focus is on better waste management, better waste recycling. In the past, everything in a hospital went in a yellow sack, and now that went for incineration. That includes all the, the newspapers and the chocolate wrappings, and everything off the ward. Just everything went for incineration. Highly inefficient, hugely expensive. And the NHS are getting better at procuring. There's still some headaches, still some frustrations around that. But they are asking the right questions by and large, even if perhaps they're not managing it in the right way. So what we do now is we have a much more proactive approach to it, a much more proactive way of dealing with the customers. We've had to recruit trained auditors. We go into the NHS, we train their staff, we train the porters, we train the doctors, give them an insight. And then not only do we do that, obviously we provide the bins around the wards, all different colour codes and that sort of thing. And then we provide them the feedback and the information and say, this is what was in this bin, this is the non-conformities, these are the weights of the bins, doing that on a daily or a weekly basis in some case, and start trying to really sort of modify their behaviour and encourage them to do better. And the net result of that, this is an example of a major NHS trust in the Thames Valley. We took over the contract in September 2009, generating 40 tonnes of waste with that split. March 2012, they're generating less waste with a different split. So overall, 33% reduction in waste with a 40% reduction in their waste management costs. And that is how we sell our services into the NHS, is actually we will reduce your waste, we will reduce your costs, and then we're measured against those targets. And it's quite an interesting market, quite an interesting environment to be in. But on the back of that, because waste incineration of clinical waste is expensive, we've developed non-burn technologies, and we have a steam hydroclave, steam sterilisation. Just a picture of that. Yellow sacks, they go through a shredder, and in the background, the silver pressure vessels, basically where everything is steam sterilised. And it's slightly odd that we go to the time and trouble to build these bits of equipment and then try and persuade our customers not to generate the waste to go in them. But it just actually what it means is that really it gives us a greater geographical scope. We have a capacity. We can then sell these services over a much wider geographical scope because we're not utilising the facilities to the same extent. We're doing cleverer things, so we can still grow the business, but with less waste. And the second example of changing the business is hazardous waste. Incineration of waste or biomass creates a hazardous waste fly ash. And currently, England and Wales, Scotland generate about 120,000 tonnes a year. This is a huge growth area. There are a lot of energy from waste plants being built. There are some enormous biomass plants under construction. That number, 120,000 tonnes a year, is going to double in the next 4 or 5 years, probably even accelerate away from that. There is, for better or for worse, and I know people in this room will have different opinions on it, there is a window of opportunity for energy from waste for biomass, and we've never been as busy as we are. What we do, we currently manage about 55,000 tonnes of that 120,000 tonnes annually, so we are the most significant player in that market at the moment, but we do some very basic treatment and put it into a hazardous waste landfill. And if I can just cast your mind back to that first key drivers slide, it's disposal, it's at the bottom of the hierarchy. It's going into landfill, so it attracts landfill tax. The landfill directive predisposes against this activity, so it's time limited in terms of the landfill directive. It's definitely not best available technologies. The writing's clearly on the wall for what we're doing. We need to move on. And what we've done is we've been following a technology called accelerated carbonation technology, and in particular a company called Carbonate Aggregates that's been developing this. We've been looking at this for probably 2 or 3 years now, but about 12 months ago we made an investment in Carbonate Aggregates. We are now a significant shareholder in that business. And basically what they're doing is bubbling the hazardous waste ash with CO2. And this carbonation process, it's not terribly clever science. The application of it is clever. They're carbonating the lime in the ash, creating insoluble bicarbonate type structures, complex structures. That locks in the heavy metals in the ash and renders it non-hazardous, and in fact takes it a step further, and we make an aggregate of it. But the micrograph just shows that the calcium carbonate crystals growing in the structure. Quite an interesting slide if you're that way inclined. This is the new plant that we've just built in Suffolk, basically capable of taking, at the moment, 18,000 tonnes of hazardous ash a year. That will create 36,000 tonnes of aggregate. You mix the ash with carbon dioxide. The next stage is to mix it with sand and cement, and the third stage is to pelletize it. And this plant is at the lignocite block making plant at Brandon in Suffolk. We've got a contract with lignocite. They will take all the aggregate we produce and more, in fact, goes into their block making process, and they're generating these blocks, and they're happy with all that technology. Clearly, we're talking to lots of other block makers around the UK as well. But what this does is it takes us virtually to the top of the hierarchy. You can't reuse this hazardous waste fly ash in the manner that it's generated. But what we're doing is we're creating a product that has it's a non-waste, end-of-waste status, so it's a product, it's an aggregate, it's replacing virgin aggregate. We're consuming CO2. It's admittedly bottled CO2. It is from a sugar beet factory, but I'm not sure if it's from Mark's, actually. But, well, no, well, I mean, the next step for us actually is to use the flue gases from the energy from waste plants. But at the moment, you know, we're using pure CO2. But the next step is to actually use the flue gas from the energy from waste plants. But it does strike me as slightly anomalous in two ways. One is that actually buying CO2 is monumentally expensive. I mean, why is that? I know, I mean, it's the treatment and stuff and the pressurizing it and the transport that's the cost. But it is the single biggest cost to this business is actually the CO2. And at the moment, there is no mechanism for us to gain any credit for that. You know, we're following the carbon capture and storage debate, but obviously that currently on a much bigger scale. But at least what it's starting to do is to put a value on carbon capture and storage, and we're hoping that that will infiltrate through at some point in the future. Rather than paying for CO2, we're going to be getting credits for capturing CO2 and locking it up. Some way off, and clearly the business model has to work as it stands at the moment. But, you know, for those that are in a position to influence, we would really like you to hasten the day when actually we can start getting credits for locking up CO2. And I have to say, it's a lot less profitable than landfilling it. Not making as much profit as we would if we put a landfill this material, but we have to move on. You know, what we're doing now is just non-sustainable, so we have to move away from that. Hopefully in time we'll have UK and European dominance and it will be more profitable, but we're a step away from that at the moment. And basically, APC residue is a powder. The aggregate, after it's been produced, maximum size is about 20 mil to give it some scale, and then a block made from the aggregate. And finally, in terms of new opportunities, Green Redeem is a new Grundon service. It's operating on an entirely independent sort of branding, so you're getting a different look. Basically, it's designed to, as I'll quote from the website, promote social responsibility through an interactive and commercially effective recycling reward scheme. What it's doing is targeting the huge quantity of beverage cans, beverage bottles that are disposed annually. I think the number is 8 billion beverage cans are disposed of in the UK every year. And most of those go to landfill, you know, because they're going in mixed bins. I mean, it's just shocking numbers. And then what we're trying to do is get into that market and do something about it. And it is a government priority, so I think the timing of this is pretty good for us. Basically what we're offering is these kiosks. You can read the slide yourself in terms of what we're offering. But the idea is that these go into high footfall areas. They go into university campuses, and there's a lot of people here who are particularly keen that take note of this. It goes into, you know, airports, stadia, anywhere where you've got high footfall areas. And you can do it in two ways. You can have there's a loyalty scheme, there's a website I'll show you, so you can go onto the website, you have your loyalty card, and you can start just building up loyalty points and reclaim your rewards, you know, just like any other reward scheme. And the other way of looking at it is take perhaps an example from Michael at American Airlines at Heathrow. You'd have a kiosk, American Airlines branded. There's a video loop, so you can store. So anybody going to that can have a video loop about your services, your products, your flights. They can put in their empty beverage cans, and it will dispense a discount. You take that onto the flight, and you get discounted drinks or something like that. And that will work just as well in a retail environment as well. You put it outside, Costa Coffee or whatever, you just get, and it encourages that participation. I mean, I know as a tenant, you have to deal with BAA, and we've discussed how difficult that might be. But that's well, how difficult it is actually, not how difficult it might be. But that's the basis of it, and the formal announcement and the formal launch of this is later this month. But anybody here from an academic institute can contact me afterwards, and I'll be. We've got actually the reason I say that is because we put 2 in Brunel University as tests, and that's what we're doing, and we're generating. That's the website, and as I come to later, we're largely targeting a much younger age profile than is present in this room, with the exception of Phoebe. And the camera team maybe, but so that's Twitter, Facebook, and all these things, all these new media, all this new way of promoting. It's quite new for an organisation like us. It'll be second nature to a lot of other businesses, but it's a new step for us. And then this is actually the data that these kiosks are generating, and it's quite interesting. This is from Brunel University, and already we're starting to get information that's running contrary to popular conception. The popular conception is that males recycle more than females, and actually, when you look at it, more males sign up, but they're very short span of attention, get bored of it, and actually the women, although fewer of them sign up, they do more recycling. And so you get lots of useful numbers, from the kiosk, and actually what we've come to realise, and just building on that, I think is if you will go back, maybe it won't. Yes, it will. What we've actually realised is that this is not a waste management service. This is all about the data, and all about the marketing opportunities that come with the data. The waste management aspect of it is incidental. You could put these kiosks anywhere. It doesn't have to be a Grundon vehicle that goes and collects it. If it goes national, it can't be a Grundon vehicle that goes national. The value and the selling is all in the data that you're capturing. And it's very disappointing, but we had decent discussions about putting these in on the Olympic site, and we got nowhere. And I just felt that actually, I don't think it was the economic argument that failed. It fell into that too difficult to do category, which was hugely disappointing for us. It would have been an enormous boost for the business. But it just, and a good example of actually how the waste management business is growing, and it's taking us away from the traditional areas into new areas, hence the new branding, new sales team, and all that sort of stuff. And finally, just to summarise, really, it's a new dynamic. We're faced with new threats, new business opportunities, lots of new science, which I like, new media, which I'm learning about, new jobs and new skills. We've employed lots of new graduate chemists and environmental scientists to support this development and growth of the business. So thank you very much.